transferring planes, there's a clinic where you can go to get your first dose of the Sputnik vaccine. And then after you get
Sputnik, I love it.
I know. And then after you get your first dose, you jump on another airline and head down to Istanbul for a 2-week vacation in Turkey, where there are no restrictions whatsoever. Everything's wide open. And it's funny, Turkey is completely wide open, but they aren't dropping like flies in the street. Okay, and if you know Istanbul, then you probably know. You wish that there were more flies dropping like flies in the street, but that's a different topic for a different show. So you spend a couple of weeks down in Istanbul, in Turkey, seeing the sights, etc. Then you board a flight back home through, let's say, Moscow or one of these Russian airports. And as you're transiting through the airport, going to your connecting flight, you can get your second dose of the Sputnik vaccine. And if you don't, and then you head home. Now, there are some problems with this. For instance, the Sputnik vaccine has not been recognized by every European country, and if they finally implement this idea of vaccine passports, quote unquote, then it's very possible that you could have been inoculated in Russia, but your government doesn't recognize that inoculation. So there is that problem, right? But
I was just going to say, can you go down there, get a shot of saline solution, go to Istanbul, come back, get another shot of saline solution, and come home?
Well, but it's, yeah.
I mean, who wouldn't want to go to a country where there's no restrictions?
Okay, so, well, anyway, this is a vacation package, okay? And it's running about $3,000 thereabouts per person. And which, again, it's not chump change, but you don't have to be Bill Gates to be able to afford this. So there it is.
It's within reach of a lot of people.
But isn't that you have to give credit where it's due? Where somebody's looking at this and going, how can I help people who are feeling they've been bottled up for 2 years now, or a year and a half, and they just want to go somewhere and get away from all of this nonsense. So I'm going to help them do that. I'm going to put together a vacation package for them where they can actually get inoculated. And I'm going to make money doing it. You got to give credit where it's due. I mean, it sounds like one of the schemes you and I might come up with, Nick.
As a matter of fact, I'd already thought of something like this, only involved a cruise ship.
And
you've got a whole bunch of expats Canadians wants to come home that can't, so you inoculate them on the far side of the ocean, take 14 days to cross the pond. When they get to Halifax, they've gone through the quarantine period and they go home.
Listen, when all of this started, we have friends who had been in Australia, and they flew from Australia. I think they flew to Honolulu, and then they took a ship from Honolulu to San Francisco, a cruise ship. Now, it could be that they took a cruise ship from Australia or New Zealand to Honolulu too. I don't recall. Anyway,
that'd be a long trip.
And it was when all of this stuff was starting, and they were on this ship, and they weren't allowed to get off. When they got to San Francisco, they wouldn't let them off the ship in San Francisco. They wouldn't let anyone off the ship because of COVID on the cruise ship. And so they were kicking back and forth, and eventually, I don't know what the outcome was, how long they were on this cruise ship, not being able to debark for at least a week, possibly 2 weeks. And it was people might remember hearing about this in the news or reading about it, about a couple of these cruise ships where people were they were trapped on the ship and nobody would let them off. Eventually, they did manage to get off and fly home, but it was quite a traumatic experience. But you know what? The most important You know what the most important thing in this whole story was? Okay, do you know how many people actually had the virus on that ship?
None.
0. Nobody came down with the virus. They were all perfectly healthy.
See after night 5. I can see after night 5 the novelty's worn off. They wake up in the morning, and me and a lifeboat are missing. Screw this! I'm getting off.
Well, I don't. Or can you have? I know if the crew mutinied, it would be mutiny. Okay. But what if the passengers?
Yeah, what about the passengers?
What if the passengers took the ship over? Would that be mutiny?
I don't think so. I think by definition, the mutiny is amongst the crew.
That's what I think too.
A bunch of disgruntled people grabbing the helm.
Yeah. I don't.
Tell you what, Joseph,
they could be like that.
Grab the bridge. I'll take the engine room.
They could be like that. We could be like that container ship in the Suez Canal. All we got to do is run her.
Oh my God! What a story that is.
All we have to do is run her aground. Yeah. Okay. Well,
across the mouth of a harbor.
That's it. We're getting off in San Francisco, whether you like it or not.
Yep. You either let us off or we're crawling down the head rope. Oh, my God.
But nobody...
and we won't even be a little...
But the point here, all joking aside, is that nobody was sick. Nobody came down with anything. There was no illness. There was no COVID. There was nothing on that from any of the passengers on that ship. So there it is.
I wonder. I've often thought back to the first image I ever saw of somebody wearing protective clothing for COVID. It was a gentleman got off an airplane. I think it was in Vancouver. I could be wrong, but it doesn't matter. He got off the airplane and he had, those 5-gallon jugs of water with the tiny little spout on one end, and you invert them and put them in the water cooler. Yeah. He had taken the fat end, he cut the bottom out, and set it over his head onto his shoulders, as if that was going to protect him from the virus.
Nick, I don't know.
But the top was left open.
Nick, I don't know if you remember, but when you first brought that up on our show, this was before we moved into our new studio. And we were broadcasting. Interesting. We were broadcasting from Nick's basement at the time. That was where our studio was. We had a makeshift studio in Nick's basement in Ottawa at his place where he was staying in Ottawa during the weekdays. And I don't know if you remember, Nick, but it struck me as so funny. I had to stop doing. I couldn't continue the show for 5 minutes or so because I could not stop laughing. It was one of those times where you're laughing so long and so hard that you're having trouble breathing.
You can't breathe.
And the next day, you're suffering from all of the muscles in your chest and stomach have been strained. And,
they're all sore.
Oh man, that was so funny.
Oh my God, I'll never forget that image. It's indelibly burned in my mind. And he's looking around like, what's your problem? But you know what it's made me want to do, especially with this threat of another lockdown? I want to go get a full-blown hazmat suit, the yellow one with the clear visor and the little hose out the top and the gloves and the boots and the whole 9 yards, and go and put COVID, stand back, you might have COVID, I don't want it, on the front of it, and walk through a grocery store trying to buy groceries.
Keep your distance.
That's right. I'm keeping mine. You keep yours.
Okay. All right. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of another lovely time. So thanks for joining us, whether you're doing it the live broadcast or by podcast after the show is broadcast live. We appreciate your patronage. We appreciate your loyalty, and we would appreciate it even more if you were to tell your friends and family and neighbors about us. so that we can increase the number of people that listen to the show and thereby increase the level of common sense out there in the world today. So with that, I'm going to say good night. And Nick, over to you.
All right. Well, I'm going to say good night too, but I want to wish everybody a happy Easter or a happy Hanukkah, whatever one you happen to be celebrating. It's going to be a busy weekend, no doubt about it. So until we see you again, we get it.
Passover, Nick. Passover, not Hanukkah.
What did I say? Hanukkah?
Yeah.
Passover.
Okay.
My apologies. All right. Well, whatever celebration you're celebrating this weekend, I hope you celebrate it in style. With that said, vacatio et amor, Deus ibi est. Good evening. God bless. Don't let anything disturb your peace, and may you have a fair wind in the following sea.